Cinderella Graziella.
Graziella. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That was correct, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Graziella.
You got it.
Yeah, Graziella. Okay, good to have you here. And a lot of people will be joining to wait like 1 or 2 minutes. So they join in before we comment properly. Thank you
Okay.
very much. You're looking gorgeous.
And we've got the background up too. So that's good.
Yeah. Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Who's going to be
It's good to
asking?
see you again.
Good to see you again too. Who's going to be asking the questions?
Yeah, it's so nice. Yeah, both of us will be
Okay.
as we continue. So she will be
Okay.
doing more of the talking too. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
that's good. So hope you can see us clearly. I
I
can
can
see my partner too.
I can see you, and then I think I don't get both of you in screen though.
Okay, you can't get both of us on the screen. Okay. What about now?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
It's better now, right? Okay. Okay, thank you. We are trying to manage different um,
Yes.
techniques as fast as possible. So,
Absolutely.
uh,
So you'll do the introductions and lead off, and then you just go into the questions. There's nothing else I've got to do on my end.
yes, I know we'll be introducing the project itself, and just we have it on the agenda. Then from there, we will go. She will come up with your bow and also talk about the program, the topic, and usher you to the podium to speak.
Okay. All right.
So,
And do you have like you've got the open to the audience questions up first? Is that happening first or last?
no, it will be happening last. We will be doing
Okay.
the first session of the questioning, then the guest will be
All
asking
right.
as we continue. So we'll be telling them to drop it on the chat so we can also read them so we can manage time properly before the end of the session. That will be the procedure.
Um,
Awesome.
Yeah, who said I want to? Okay, go ahead.
okay, I don't know what is that by your time. If it's morning, right?
It's evening here. It's
Yeah,
Oh,
8
8 p.m.
p.m.
okay, all right then. Good evening. I hope you're doing good today, and I just hope you're prepared for the program today.
Yeah,
I can see you're smiling very well.
yeah. She
No,
compliments the smile.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear her?
I can hear you. I can hear you. So I've got
Oh,
all the questions and some of the replies and answers and to go through. So happy with that. I'm happy with what you've asked. That's no problem.
okay.
Yeah,
All right, then maybe because of time, I may not be able to ask you all the questions because there are quite a lot of questions there. So, but I'm just going to be asking you a few of the questions because of time. Are you okay with that?
That's fine. Whichever you go to. I think the key words, the key questions will be 1 and 2, 3,
yeah,
and then maybe looking at 4, and then you could probably wrap up on 5 because why young people across the globe kind of is answered earlier anyway.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Right.
I think we should start now
Yes,
because of
we are
time.
starting now. So thank you very much, and others will be joining us. So it's a live session. You're welcome to. This is Amanda's social network event, and it always run twice a month, depending on activities. And the entire plan is that we want to promote. This program is meant to promote sustainable development goals with the aim of reaching people at different levels, at the grassroots level, national, and even international level. So it's more of a excuse me, it's more of a local approach. We're using local communities to reach a global objective. I think that was Ban Ki-moon that gave that address around local approaches in one of the GCPD sessions. So I think we're on the right path, and that is what M and the social network is also after. And our core approaches, which is advocacy, citizenship, engagement, and youth participation, among our thematic areas, which include climate action, sustainable livelihood, and media for development. Uh, this one is under media for development because we believe that with this particular approach, we'll be reaching more people. And over time, the sustainability plan is that when we get this document on this platform, over time, we are going to convert them to local materials with local languages. Over time, with enough resources, enough capacity, we are going to reach more people in the grassroots settings. So that's the plan. And MDP, which is Media for Development Project, is housing three other programs, which this one is for the SDGs Connect YouTube. This is the one we are doing now. And people can reach us on Facebook and on YouTube. Now, the other plan, the other one that we are housing with on that is sorry, that we are housing under this program is the SDG Connect radio program, and that's when we go every Friday on air. We have partnership with a radio station that we do that every Friday. Sorry about that. So aside that, we also have SDG Connect conferences, and we always do that. We plan that annually, and we have people working on that project. So we'll be all these programs will have a cumulative to buttress what we'll be doing for our conferences. So we'll be having SDG conference possibly before the end of the year annually. So that's the plan. So we are looking at sustainability of this program and this project. So Lucina will be coming on to share your bow, the bow of our guest, and also to usher us in to the program. Thank you very much.
All right, then. Thank you for that, Moses. And once again, welcome this program. It's actually, I know it's going to be a great one because our guest here is actually someone who is experienced. All right, then. The name of our guest is Graziella Take. Did I pronounce it correct?
You did.
Okay, all right, then. All right, then, as a leader, Graziella brings dynamic capability, professionalism, and vast experience in social impact, education outcomes, and also she's a skilled facilitator, trainer, and speaker with experience in international sectors and local market development, leading and developing multidisciplinary teams. And also, she's also experienced not just a someone who's just vast experience, she's also experienced in sports and psychology. I guess this bio it shows that this our guest today is someone who is really going to explain the topic we have today. And I believe you're going to do justice to that, Graziella Tate. Once again, thank you for having us today in this program.
Thank you very much, Husseina. And we have to summarize that because she has a
Yes,
very
a very
huge profile, but we
profile.
have to summarize that because of time.
Because of
So, and I believe we've done justice to that. Thank you very much.
uh,
Grazilia, I believe we've done justice to the
You,
summary.
you absolutely have. It's just lovely to be here, Husseina and Moses. I really have enjoyed preparing for the show, listening to the passion and power behind the initiative. And it's just a real honor to be here with both of you. So, yes, you have. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
thank you. All right, then I think we should just go straight to our questions for today because I believe that's one of the reasons we're here to let people know what we're doing, and then you as our guest to answer our questions we have for today. So, Moses, please,
Uh,
I think we just go with
uh,
the first question.
Thank you very much. So before we also go, we've given you the bow of Grazilia, but Graziella, sorry.
Okay,
So I will we will get it right. Don't worry. So and I would just want I would just wanted to also give a brief about yourself.
okay,
Some things maybe we have not that you think is
yeah, we've
important
not
for this
said.
discussion. So before we go into the questions proper
Of
about
course.
your project and what you do.
Well, it's really lovely to be here again. Thank you so much for welcoming me and reaching out. It's always a pleasure to speak both on webcast and YouTube and radio. I find that media today becoming more and more responsible around both of the sustainable development goals, but also looking back at the millennium and what we kind of promised ourselves. So my name is Graziella Thake. I was born in Mumbai, India. I'm Maltese Italian. I've lived in about 13 different countries. I have a passion for Africa. I'll be there later on this year. I've worked extensively throughout the world, and the team I have currently as CEO of the Optimization Hub covers 16 countries and 24 languages. And we also believe in living the goals, not just talking about them, which becomes really important. My background is forensic psychology. So as a forensic psychologist, I worked in our prison system. I trained policing and military. I went from there to working with 24 different multinationals. I taught change development, change management. I also always had a hand in community. This stems back, I think, to my own upbringing. My father, when I was very young, had worked with Mother Teresa, and he took the slums, and he said, you're responsible for this side of the street as well as, where you live. And so I believe that we have to walk hand in hand. And sustainability to me means that we have to think about our neighbors. I have to think about you as my brothers and sisters. I have to think about the planet as the place and the environment that I must care for in symbiosis, because it has to last for my children's children. I'm 52 now, so I've had 33 years of devoted and dedicated work in what I do. And I'm a CEO, I'm a chairwoman, I sit on 2 boards, I'm a trustee of 100 World Legends. I also, have ushered and guided many things as an advisor. I'm currently now also working on some investment boards. But I have a real passion for the future, because we owe this as, our own planet, but also to our children and our children's children. And I'm a little bit in despair when I look at how long it's taken us to wake up, not just through the COVID pandemic, but if you think prior to the pandemic, we were already in trouble. So we have to stand up. So there's a bit more there to contribute, but I won't go into it. I have got expertise in a number of different areas. I do speak internationally on the development goals, but also on change. I mentor women internationally as well to get onto boards. I've spoken in countries. We've run projects for countries, as well as projects for various different sports and levels of sport. We run a lot of projects for universities, onboarding and offboarding students. And the key area we're talking about today is mental health. My whole life has been devoted to mental health.
Wow. So let's start from that. Thank you very much for that expose, Graziella and Graziella. So
you can call me Yo G. G's fine.
Okay, sorry, call you Tick, right? Okay.
Call me G. Call me G. It's fine. It's fine.
G.
Okay, G.
Yes. Easier.
Oh, that's.
Oh,
okay.
No. Thank you for that.
Thank you. So let's go straight to the mental thing. We understand the inclusion of mental health into the Sustainable Development Goal 3, and we understand that it's very important. Maybe a lot of attention has not been paid to it. So I want you to give us an overview of mental health in relation to physical and public health, but we want you to emphasize more on mental health. Thank you very much.
I will do that. I think it's really important first if we think about what the SDGs actually mean. So the Sustainable Development Goals are about the future we want. Now, when we think about ourselves as human beings, whether we're in leadership governance, whether we're growing, whether we're migrating communities, whether we're establishing what we want, whether we're still trying to orient that, we all require a healthy mind. And so when we think about the SDGs and we go through each of them, the importance is no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being being the third goal that we're talking about today. But then we've also got to think about quality education. Have we achieved that? Because all of these SDGs both interweave with mental health, support it, but need to be supported by it. So just think about them. If you think about gender equality, you think about clean water and sanitation. You need to be within your right mind to be thinking about these things. You need to feel good within yourself to adopt something and to work with it. If you want affordability and clean energy, you have to feel, comfortable within your own mind to come up with ideas or commit to things. You just think, as a human being, everything gets disrupted by your state of mind. If you think about work, economic development, And you consider that Forbes has said that we at the moment have $8.2 trillion lost to productivity due to mental health reasons. So think about how these things all interrelate. Sustainable cities and communities. Sustainable cities are being developed with psychologists in hand to look at how people interact and how the psychology will affect the way that they interact with the city. If we look at responsible consumption, are we going to consume responsibly if we feel really pressed in our minds and stressed? All these things both relate to mental health and are supported by mental health. Climate action, water, life on land, peace and justice, partnerships.
That's good. Good
They
system.
all require us to be there. So if we pivot back to mental health and we consider for a moment the importance of the precursors to mental health being, that is the resilience that we have to conflict. Mental health plays an enormous part in our world. We know that the pressure of all of these goals not working affects our mental health. And if we're not supporting and preventing mental health decline, then how can we engage with these goals? See, it's a little bit of a vicious cycle. We have to take care of mental health for everything else to work, and everything else working affects our positive mental health. So it is one goal that affects everything.
That's one goal that fix everything. Wow, that's bomb. Listen, now go ahead and continue the question.
Okay, all right, then thank you, Graziella, for this and for answering the first question. And from the first question, I've got to learn that your mental health needs to be stable before you can even think your right way following the goals of SDGs. All right, then I think the next question I have here is the second question there in the one you have. I think I don't want to ask you that question because I just feel the more important question to ask. So then the one I should be asking you here is okay, you've talked about mental health in relation to sustainable goals. So I want to know what projects have you worked on or you're currently working on to overcome health challenges against sustainable development?
So our entire organization at the Optimization Hub, plus the work that I do on the panel for EMIC, the work that I do in helping both multinationals and nationals through leadership development, everything we're doing is around this mental health goal. If we look at that question and we look at the poor mental health as a precursor to reduced resilience, what we need to then consider is at the Optimization Hub, I've pretty much devoted my life after working in forensics and after working with multinationals and seeing that it's not just those who haven't or those who have that have better or worse positions. We're all exactly the same. And so our work at the Optimization Hub deals with three specific areas. We have a curriculum that is prevention education. The ambulance no longer works. We can't go to the ambulance any longer. It's too late when it's happened. We can see this with climate and the ill effects, other things on our health. So what we must do is consider, okay, we know that there are situations and there are contexts and there's a neuropsychological pathway that we require to be healthy. Let's backwards plan and provide the education at the stages that are required so that we prevent the decline. So we have a curriculum particularly for sport. So I went to sport first because we seem to congregate mostly around sport and nowhere else. It is also our largest global market, with 360 billion being spent in that market. So when you consider sport itself and the fact that sport houses at the moment our youngest and most vulnerable from the ages of young as 8 through to 16, pre-professionalization and professionalization, A curriculum for sport to prevent mental health decline seemed to be the most responsible place to be first. So that's one of our biggest projects. We now have the leading health technology in the world for universities and for sports. So dealing with countries, dealing with coaches, working with athletes. And then in universities, we have a separate platform that's for the onboarding of university students and also the offboarding of university students to prepare them for a university education and then to prepare them for life. But also then we have a curriculum for all education. Now, if you look back at the major goals that were set in the millennium, it was all about education and the eradication of AIDS and the ensurance that poverty was no longer there. We know that education is a primary precursor to ensuring that we ourselves can make decisions and be strong and safe. Now, safety comes from knowledge. And therefore, for us at the Optimization Hub, knowledge is everything. We're accessible, we're affordable, we provide an absolute promise that in 9 hours we can prevent the decline of mental health through the tools we teach. And the environment we provide, the way we teach it, it took 3 years to research what we did. So that commitment. But in other projects that I've been actively involved in, that has been the absolute goal, to ensure that sustainable development is provided for through mental health provision and the stability of the best circumstances to ensure we come to the best outcomes as a population. Because our world will not continue the way that it has continued, and it will not be able to sustain itself if we don't start to educate the skills that we need in a faster paced world.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a whole lot. And when you mentioned that knowledge is key to what Optimization Hub is all about, that really struck me. And I'm sure the entire goal is also about prevention. So I want to ask, with your professionalism over the years, how well can you assess, or I want you to assess, are we getting there when it comes to mental, physical alert, public alertness, even with the past COVID-19 pandemic invasion to our planet? Do you think we are doing well enough? Do you think there is something we need to do better as we go on? And
Yeah.
do you think we need more people coming together more, especially because Goal 17 talks more about partnership? I want you to eat on that, and let's see what's our scorecard like.
It's really bad. It's really, really bad. I mean, I look around the world for leaders. I really look for leaders. And, you know, Moses, leadership takes courage, and it takes the passion and commitment to your why. You have to feel a leader, and you have to feel that when you walk into a burning room, that leader is the one who's going to get you out of there. You have to know they're going to get your whole family out of there, your whole community out of there. When you look around the world, can you see that happening? I am not looking at any global leaders at the moment and saying, I would hand my family over to you. I think that poor mental health is a precursor it's now been a given. It's almost as if we are treating our own humanity like cannon fodder. We're not respecting other human beings. There's nobody leading from the front, collectively building our communities and our societies to respect each other in diversity and inclusion. The first question when people talk about diversity and inclusion to me and, you know, equity and how we're working, I say, how does this happen in your organization? Show me what it looks like, because we're so good at saying these things in policies, but what has actually changed? And I would say to you, we all have eyes. We can all see it. We've got to wake up, but not fight it. We've got to look at our neighbors and say, you're my brother and sister. You're my neighbor. I'm here to work with you and work out ways almost past the leaders that we have in the world, because I don't see them bringing us inspiration that touches our hearts and ways that they're demonstrating how they work together. that collective spirit. I mean, that's why I have this love of sport, because we see that demonstration in sport, how, people will collectively come together. I know that when I started to work in sport in my early days, in my 20s, and as I said, I'm 52 now, I look back at early work also and learning from, my forensic world in Māori, and the way that the All Blacks kind of work around how they come together around that tribalism. This is the reason I'm so comfortable working in Africa, so comfortable in our European nations, so comfortable around tribalism. It's part of us. Our difference needs to be celebrated. We need to respect each other. We need to see this demonstrated. At the moment, poverty is hitting us. We're facing famines. We're not caring. It's like we've become desensitized to the world. We look at things on screens. We're watching things happening as if it's a movie, and it's not affecting us. We've become emotionally desensitized, and it's time to wake up. This is our humanity, and we need to really reach out and touch each other and say, we're here for each other. And I think what COVID's done for us is not only the social distancing, we've emotionally distanced. We've distanced from causes, we've distanced from, the actual effects of what's going on in the world. And true leadership is going to acknowledge that in order for us to be sustainable, we have to work in partnership, but not in words. We have to see this happening in front of us. We have to see global leaders not behaving as if they were in kindergarten. We have to see them behaving as the wisdom that needs to be there, that lays down arms, that takes on everything from the forefront, that's humble. I always love the stories of servant leadership, and I believe that's what you are as a leader. You shouldn't always be out front. You should be the person who holds the world out front. I can't see those hands right now, so I don't think we're doing that well. Are we going to do better? We sure are, because of people like you and me. We're going to do better because maybe leadership is going to come from the base up. Maybe it's going to come from people like us who just say, we're just going to get on with it.
Yeah. All right, thank you for that, Gabriela. You actually spoke well about leadership and our assessment when it comes to mental health. And from what you've explained so far, it's obvious that we still need to do a lot. There's a lot we still need to do. We just can't sit back and watch everything just going the way it should go, but we should try our possible best to make it the way it should be. And thank you for that. And being the chief executive of Optimization Hub, it's obvious that you're actually doing a lot from your end. Thank you for that. All right, then I will just go straight to our next question, which is when it comes to issues of mental health, and somehow it's considered to be contextual and relative. Okay, relative. Okay, let me get this question really clear. The issues of mental health are somewhat considered contextual and relative. Do you think they are? Do you think the mental health are somewhat considered contextual relative?
Yeah. Hello, are you there?
Are you there?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. So I do believe it's contextual and relative. So, there is the context and relativity, but I think right now, if we look at the globe as a person, this whole person is hurting. And if you look at each country as a different personality, each country has its way of expressing mental health issues. So we did a lot of data and research. And so, anyone in the audience can reach out to me. We have the data. And looking at different countries, there are different expressions of decline of mental health. So the Nordic states, the expression of mental health and its decline is often through eating disorders or poor body image. Whereas, you look at the UK and the mental health statistics are often expressed through drinking, anger, violence. And then you look at the USA and Australia and it's more through depression and suicide. You look at the Pacific, it's expressed as an anxiety. In Africa, it's around the depression, the pulling back, the anxiousness, and then you've got to look at poor mental health as relative, yes, to the context, but I'd also say that as human beings,
Yeah.
We all have a heart, we all have a mind, we all have a neurology. It all can be rewired, and we all respond to safety, we respond to care. So even though our expression in the context of mental health and the country that we're living in can be different, I do think that we also need to see each other in the mirror and say, well, you and I will feel pressure. We might respond to it differently given situations, environments, the different areas or regions. But I think, we have to also say that the barriers to seeking help are because we haven't changed our narrative. I mean, we talk about the mental muscle, we talk about mental agility, we talk about the importance of agility for a faster world. Web3 is here. We're working on the web. We're contextualizing things in a completely different world now together. And so in that harmony, I think we are actually seeking a closeness and a sameness. And I think with or without great leadership, we're going to get it. Well, we are going to have great leadership, as I said, from the bottom up. We are going to get there. But if we have that context itself might then be taken over by technology that will bring us closer together. My only concern is, in order for us all to get there at the same rate, we need education. We need prevention education. We need to, keep education at the forefront, because peaceful living, inclusive societies, building effective, accountable, inclusive institutions at all levels is going to require us to have a sameness in our education in some way. And that education is going to come from the mental side, how we are resilient, how we are agile, what we learn about our humanity, our human selves can be the same. Our cultures might be different, but what we learn about the bodies that we live in and the minds that we work with and our emotional response to the world and the way that we manage that can be the same.
Thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you.
And I want you to also talk about your role as a sport person now. Let's ease the
I
atmosphere.
really want to hear that.
Yeah. So
I never said I was a sports person.
yeah, we need that, because on your profile I saw several sports activities you're doing. So, and I don't just want you to express that experiences without connecting it to our topic, which has to do with mental, physical, and public health. Now, most people might not be able to connect that. So I want you to use your own experience to say how young people can use being sporty or in getting involved in sport to transform their mental, their physical, and the public health of their country or globally. Thank you.
I would say to every young person listening to this, never try to be like someone else. Enjoy your differences. My name, Graziella, I didn't like my name when I was younger because nobody could ever say it. And it was so difficult because I also looked different to everyone else. I came to Australia, I looked different, I was different. My culture was different. And in those days, it was really difficult. So prejudice was high. And I remember that, we used to get 20 across each hand every time one of the children from the same culture that we came from did something wrong. So all 20 of us were lined up and we got the strap across each hand. I lived and grew up in a time where, difference wasn't okay. And now we're fighting for the fact that we want to acknowledge that difference. I just want to invite every single person to live with hope, and especially young people, to not to sort of to turn to your phones and to turn to just Web3, but to sit down and dream big and decide that you can have that. I think the importance is that we've just come out of the aftermath of 2 years. Many rites of passage have been taken away. There have been many pressures. We're looking at a conference next year that we're going to run called Rites of Passage. We're running another conference in 2024 for women, which is all around Girls Rule the World. And it's for women and men, but it's looking at that feminine leadership. How can we look at leadership from a different stance, but also encourage universities to bring their different ideas there, to look at innovation. I think in order for us to respect what you've brought up in that topic around sport. The reason I've loved sport, I'm not particularly sporty. I was sporty till I was 16, and then I got told to stop playing sport because there was nowhere really for me to go. It wasn't that great, and there was nowhere for me to really go with sport. But I look at my own daughters who are 18 and 13. One has been invited to represent her country. The other represents her state. One's traveling to the States to go and play, in Div 1 and going about to get her education through sport. I think what I love about sport is it syncs very well with tribalism. When you become part of a sport, you wear a jersey, the pride of your country, the pride of your team, the pride of something that you belong to. And I think the sense of belonging that sport brings us is wonderful in its context. It has had negative context as well. So I want to correct this thought that it's all sport is healthy, because I know the Ministry of Health has sat me down to talk about it. And I've said, look, if you're going to have a sport plan, realize that not all sport can be healthy if it isn't in the correct way. This is about physical movement, not about you have only one identity. So the importance of the context of sport is it contributes to identity, but it's not your whole identity. And identity building is really, really important and essential in our younger and more vulnerable years. If we look at music and the arts, and I have a family in Malta of 96 cousins literally, and some of them are exceptional at media like yourselves, music and the arts. Others are really studious, who've really proven themselves in medical fields. Others live simply, contextually, as farmers on the land. I think wherever you are, whatever you're drawn to, I really believe in non-judgment. You can never judge another person or decide who they are. So very important, I think, we take from the context of sport, the tribalism, the togetherness, but also respect in sport, the differences. We need each other to compete. We need our differences to have sport. So I think we can learn from sport in that way, in that positive way, and we can look at the rest of the world and take that light. I mean, we're very dedicated in our sports curriculum to diversity and inclusion and the provision of education for both, our athletes in mental health and our coaches in sport itself. But equally so in universities and education, that our differences are to be celebrated. And so for all young people listening, celebrate your differences. I've literally worked with, now I would say, tens of thousands of young people, both in charities that I have been part of, charities my children have started, charities I support, but also in the work that I do in and around our work with 100 World Legends, what I do at the Optimization Hub, what I do with EMIC, and what I do also on several boards around media and our responsibility in leadership and in mentoring. It is all about non-apologetic self. This is me, not so that you harm other people, not so that you take out your differences on others, but more about, self-acceptance and your identity as a strength. And true sustainable development is about us bringing our whole selves to our community and going back to trading with each other and saying, I have these skills, you have those skills, let's trade those skills. So we're building the environment around us together. That's what we've lost. We've lost that village mentality, that ability to work together in symbiosis. Nobody's better than the other. We're just simply working together.
And thank you, Graziella, for that, bridging the gap between sport and mental health. Please, you got to make us understand that if you want to practice sport in relation to your mental health, you should be who you are. You should not try to pretend to be somebody else because of your difference. And it was clear that you told us to celebrate our difference, which is very important to us. Thank you for that. So our question now is, what are your recommendations for maintaining work and life balance for sustainable development? This is, what would you recommend for us maintaining your work and life balance? At least as you're working, you need to balance, as in need to make your life balance so that you will be able to meet your goals. So how can you, what's your recommendation for us? Like, okay, you're working, this is Graziella, she's working, but then how do you balance your life with your work? So please, we want a recommendation from you.
Well, can I give you one blanket recommendation that everyone should do our Breathe program? It's only 2 sessions and it's so easy and it's on a platform and we see change. Do you know, during the pandemic, we worked a lot with Africa and we worked a lot in the West Indies and parts of the US and in Kosovo. What we saw so many times was that people needed to come together to congregate, but they also needed to find a place for themselves. And sometimes we need to look at each other to realize that we're okay as we are. And then we need to go away and find that space to take on what we've learned together and incorporate it for ourselves. So if we look at this, health-life balance and we look at work-life balance, it always is going to come back to servicing what we need fundamentally as human beings. And that comes into, our physiological needs. We do need to have food, water, sleep. But there's this thing called safety. And Maslow's hierarchy, I always come back to that because he had it right, that safety need. But what we also talk about at the Optimization Hub, it's not just physical safety we require, it's emotional safety. And so for you to have balance in your working environment and your home environment, you need to feel emotionally safe. So knowing yourself emotionally, how you tick, what's going on. And quite often we sort of almost numb ourselves to ourselves. And then really listening to what it is that we can contribute to build healthy self-esteem. Work-life balance has a series of routines. You can grab lots of things from different places. But I'm a great believer in quiet and peace. And, one of the rugby teams we taught, and this is not one of the national teams, this is actually a community team, they coined it as a space between your ears. And when you get that space between your ears, then suddenly there's room for this massive connection to happen. And psychoneuroimmunology teaches us this. It teaches us that we need that space so that neurologically we work, because we do have chemicals in our bodies. And those chemicals need the clarity, to do the work that they need to do. And to be able to establish balance comes from a series of routines and tools. We teach those, and as I said, in our Breathe program, it's accessible, it's affordable, it's very easy to do, and you get to work with 40 other people, but then you get time on your own and time together. And literally in 4 hours and 2 sessions, you learn everything and unlearn some things, because sometimes in order to have balance, we have to get rid of some old habits. We have to get rid of some things, not by criticizing ourselves or others, but by relearning and repatterning ourselves. I started in psychology. I'm no longer a psychologist. I started in forensics, and then I went to change management, and I worked with multinationals and went to organizations and went to organizational psychology. And I saw within organizations such a huge degree of burnout. Burnout, I think, when we look at what's happened in the world and even who has been reporting on burnout, and I believe the statistics on burnout have trebled. I know that homelessness is now seeing a rise in under 16-year-olds who are going to the street. So if you do think about where we are as a population and you consider, the interventions that are required, 26% of our countries are saying that mental health is a top priority. And the reason that is that employees are disengaged. So 70% of our globe's employees, according to WHO, are disengaged and are suffering from burnout. So work-life balance, 83% of Gen Zs are now reporting that's what they want most. To have it requires a little bit of discipline, dedication, and devotion.
Wow.
You need to come on board with discipline. You need to learn the tools. You need to become dedicated to yourself, but also dedicated to the world around you and what's important. And then you need to become devoted to your why. Why are you doing things? And, I believe in that, not harming other people, not harming yourself. And this is how we live in harmony.
Wow, thank you so much, Jane. And I want to say that was a whole lot. So because of time, and you mentioned several things, especially when it comes to discipline, when it comes to understanding our why. And that also get us back to where you started from. You also mentioned something then on leadership. So I will want us to discuss further a bit before we go to the question and answer sessions. We hope we get people commenting already. We're trying to track those information and see if people are really. So, audience or people who are listening live can drop their questions as we continue. We'll just read them out for our guests to handle them. But while we are doing that, Jane, I want you to talk briefly about um, issues that has to do with public health. We know we just got off COVID-19
Yeah.
pandemic. I want you to see how we can connect that to uh, what comes. During the COVID-19 pandemic, people can not even do a lot of things. You
Yeah.
work from home, because of
Some
the lockdown,
some people lost their
you
jobs.
understand. So we have little or no time to do physical activities, and a lot of people are getting too used to that sedentary lifestyle,
Yeah.
affecting their mental health, their physical health, and also causing most corporations now, because they discover that it's easy to do, it's economical
To
to
work
work
remotely.
remotely. So we're looking at it in relation to our productivity and how we can have our entire well-being. So how do we merge all this together? Corporations want to reduce costs. An individual need an activity to make him move and be more productive and to be more sporty. So how do we balance all this? That's connected to the last question Usina asked. So I wanted to deliver that while we expect our participants to send in their questions. I hope you got that questions. Those the
This last
question, the
question.
last question, right? You got it right?
I hope I did. So, in the relation to the economic development
Okay.
goals, and we look at social economic development, quite often, psychology sits right beside finance. And the reason it does is because if we are not healthy, we can't be productive. Now, again, coming back to those figures and statistics, physical and psychological effects of burnout are costing business at $190 billion a year. And you look at your questioning during the pandemic, businesses trying to push to grow, and we think of business as this separate entity, and I just kind of want to narrow that down. Business is really a group of people producing an outcome to solve a problem, to contribute to our society. Some businesses do very, very well with those problems, and they make a lot of money out of what they're doing, and others struggle. And I think it comes back to, again, the psychology and the stratoscope of our economy. If we're looking at social and economic development, then we have to look at this as what we need most is healthy people. Now, I know that in many countries, they can't find enough workers. I know that they were struggling to find people that they needed even for the Commonwealth Games. So there is work available for people. There is work out there. But what I would assert is I don't really believe we're in a healthy state. People are feeling lost. They're feeling they've had their goals taken away from them in the last 2 years. So we have a different psychology that requires strong leadership. And as I said, it's people like yourselves, myself, and literally thousands of other good people who are going to change this, because the psychology of our world has been put into almost PTSD. We're all suffering from the stress and the trauma of the last 2 years. But it's as if we've said, oh, but wait, there's more. There's now a war. There's now, a shortage of food. There's now, over the last 2.5 years, things we haven't been paying attention to that have become much worse. And we still seem to be struggling with diversity and inclusion. So economically, we're never going to get ahead if we don't look at our community and support our community first. If people haven't got jobs, how do we create jobs? If people don't know where the work is, if people need that social emotional support, it has to start with our direct communities.
And then thank you, Graziella, for that, explaining the things we need to know. I think we should just go straight to the questions that we have and some comments here. Um, okay, Temitayo Okereji, she said, the connection between the mental and physical health is overly underrated. People with serious mental health conditions are at high risk of experiencing chronic physical condition and vice versa. That was her comment. And she said this awareness is really appreciated. All right, then this is coming from Omale Angela, and she said, I think this is a question. She said, how can someone who is in an unsafe environment
And
and
it's
needs help, but can't seem to break free from such environment, get freedom in order to prevent getting the mental health affected? Should I read the question again?
Yes. So, how can someone in an unsafe environment and needs, yeah, okay, that's a really good question. So, what I'm going to say to you, Amali, is if you are feeling unsafe, the most important thing is to look at where safety comes from. And I'm pulling back to my forensic knowledge here, but also my work in communities, in working both with men and women who were in poverty situations or were homeless, or also who had domestic violence or other things that were occurring around them. When you feel unsafe, the first thing you need to consider is, where can I find the safety? And it is really scary in that place. And so there is a need for you to think about either if there are helplines or people that you can go to, safe people that you know you can trust. If you don't have that within your family, then you need to think a little bit broader than that. The places that provide education, the local universities, they're not going to turn people away if you're coming in and you're saying, I actually need help. And I do really believe that's where we have to open our doors. And I'm not sure which environment you would go to first in Nigeria. I'm going to need, Moses, I may need your help to help me direct that, because I don't have local knowledge of exactly in this area. But I can tell you what I'm aware of in Africa is that there are a number, and you look at the 52, member sort of state, and you think about where you go to first. Now, tribally, we would go to our elders or we would go to educators. And so I often say to go to an education facility if there isn't a trusted place that you can go to. That's a great place to go to first. And if you
okay.
don't feel,
Okay.
you know,
Right. Right. Right.
no, I was just, and
Okay.
I think that's where I probably need a bit more of your health and knowledge. But I also think
Yes.
the next thing is to, when you make that commitment to sort of make a decision as to what's going to be safe for you. It's a very big question to ask in this environment. And I really think if you need personally to get into a situation where you're feeling safe, then there are some ways also to find that safety, but you need people who help you to maintain that safety.
Yeah, thank you very much. And as you said, we also be throwing more light on that. As regards SafeNet, there are organizations that help around there. But when we are doing it, there are also religious groups that help. Nigeria is more religious centered. People get connected more to their spiritual leaders. And even they consider them as mediators in this part of the world more than a professional mediator. I'm talking in context, reality of Nigeria situation now. Looking at Nigeria as a case study, we'll be seeing them as a lot of people respect them so much and they feel safe with them. So depending on the context of
Can,
the interpersonal conflict or interpersonal conflict we're dealing with. So I will also join what you said. The person must identify the safe net, the ideal situation, and people who can be of help.
Yeah.
So there are, depending on also the kind of issue, if it's a domestic violence, we must be very specific. If it's a domestic violence issue, there are organizations that even work towards that at the moment that help to, in different way, to help people who are going through those challenges at the moment. So we have several in Nigeria And Emandi's Social Development Network is also working with different organizations
Yeah.
who can help people who are having challenges, who are feeling insecure or emotionally imbalanced, to direct them to where they should be or where they can get help. If that is, if while looking inward we cannot find a suitable safe net for them, so we'll look around and see which organization can do this. So I think that will help. However, we are also looking at international partners like you to also, we'll be doing a lot of work. We discussed this too in Tempest. We'll be doing a lot of work together to see how we can improve global partnership
Yeah.
on issues like this, so we can create more sustainable safe net for people who are feeling insecure. I think there are other questions. So can you help us with that? Or do you have anything to say, Jane, on this particular? Do you still have more things to share?
The only thing I was going to say is that, both in education, religious environments, and in coaching, so in coaching, religious environments, education, we have suffered, unfortunately, in the past, the issues of people who have access to our most vulnerable perhaps misusing that. And I'm not saying that's true of everyone. So this is why you need several people who you can go to for safety. I mean, for example, when we're working in the development of sport, we develop our coaches as well as our athletes. If we look at the development of communities in society, we look at the development of our leaders, our organizations, as well as the development of grassroots and education. It's very important for us to remember that, when you're vulnerable, you need several people. And sometimes in a vulnerable place, that's when we can make poor decisions. And so it becomes very important for us to bring that onto the outside. And I would always go to religion, and I haven't in this instance just because of the nature of the question. I sort of thought, well, asking for a way out to feel safe sounds more a little bit about the education to be able to maybe even access and get education. And quite often when young women are asking those questions, I would often say go into education, equipping yourself with knowledge and getting your own income is important for your safety, because this is where vulnerability for women has been in the past, is that they haven't been able to provide for themselves or have been more vulnerable than they've needed to be. So would always kind of go to that education as well as spirituality, because I really believe those two in context are there. But then we almost need to think about that third. And I always say to people, we need 4 legs to our stool. So whatever you're doing, go to 4 different places, because a stool with only 1 leg is never balanced. A stool with 2 legs is a bit wobbly. A stool with 3 can manage, but having 4 legs on a stool, you feel quite sturdy. So think of 4 places you can go, 4 people you can go to.
All right, then thanks. Thank you very much, Graziella Take. It's really been wonderful having you here and talking about mental health. You talked about leadership, you talked about sport, and also you talk about kindness. You talk about so many things. You talk about diversity. You talk about differences, how we have to celebrate ourselves, how we need to be happy, how we need to be mentally stable. That's a whole lot. Thank you very much. I just have a lot to take home today, and you've really done justice to this topic. Your experience is wow. I'm really happy having you here. I think we have just one last question. Let me check the comment section and see if, okay, it's a question or a comment. Okay, this one said sometimes because of misconception and stigma surrounding mental health issues, people who have mental health conditions often suffer in silence and not sure how to cope with their symptoms. So, okay, I think this person is saying that when you're in a mental state that you're not sure of what to do, you don't really know how to come out of that mental state. So I think this question is very clear. So she said, what are you going to do when you're not sure of your mental health, your mental state? You don't know if you're all right or you're okay. So what would you advise that person to do?
So if I can pick this up from the individual level, I guess, because I haven't worked very much on that individual level. That's a lot. We have 45 to 70 coaches working in that individual level. I would pick this up at a and at changing the narrative level. So if we look at the barriers to being comfortable talking about mental health, the barriers have always been the way that we've looked down upon things. It's the way we see each other. Changing the narrative is important. And just today, I was talking to one of the countries that we'd worked with, and we ran a countrywide, conference, changing the narrative around mental health, called it Elevate the Game. We've run this in several countries since. And just today, they said, everyone has changed their approach to mental health because we changed the narrative to mental agility and working with your mental muscle. Now think about it. When you think about mental agility, you're thinking about the spring in your step and being agile. So I would invite this person to think about, how do I become mentally agile? And if you're not in a good place, or that person's, it's about your mental muscle. How can you go and exercise that mental muscle? We don't often exercise our minds or take them out into the fresh air or give them the right things that they require. We're very happy to go to the gym to build our muscles, but we never build our minds. So mental muscle, mental agility education, change the narrative, take the barrier down. The stigma will go when the barrier comes down. When a person is in that place, and if I cast my mind back to both my forensics and also the work that we do in training our trainers, because we train our trainers, but we also train trainers in universities and in sports faculties, one of the things we always sit upon is that in order for a person to identify themselves that there's something not quite right, they have to feel okay about, I don't feel great, or if they're in a situation of decline, that there's an acceptance and a safety. Safety will always bring you back. So, there's the safety of human contact. And if you think about attachment and children, that's where it comes from.
Thank you very much for giving us a whole lot to take home. And I want to say thank you. But I said that I'll be bringing up the CEO, Amanda Shushu Development Network. It will be talking to you, and we'll also be giving a vote of thanks to every of our participants and to yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed being here today. Thank you so much. And I hope that I was able to bring something special to your audience and your viewers.
Thank you so much, Graziella. It's been an awesome time with you. Thank you for granting us this opportunity to speak with you. I'm sure we've learned so much from the feedback. It's very positive. Thank you so much for squeezing out time from your busy schedule, I assume, So thank you. We appreciate you. And we're looking forward to working with you from the Monday Social Development Network. We appreciate you and all of the everybody who has participated from different places and all around. We appreciate you for joining us. And then we look forward to more conversations around development, sustainable development. And then we can only wish you nothing but the best, in your organization. And we look forward to engaging with you going forward. Thank you so much. Thank you, Moses. Thank you, Sena, for being amazing. Amazing. Do I say host? Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well done.
Thank you very much. So we have come to the end of today's edition of SDGs Connect on YouTube, and we will be doing this often. So to our participants all across the globe, we want you to keep following Amanda's social network, social development network on different platforms. We want to also tell you that this is just a beginning. We have more things to do. And if you have any questions, any comments whatsoever, please feel free to reach out to us on any of the platforms. You can use the YouTube link, you can use the Facebook link, any of the links to get through us. And as we want to say, I want to join everybody and say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Bye you guys. Bye for now. Bye.
Bye
for now.
Guys, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.